Welcome in. I am the Crypto Bull God, and in today's video, the family. This video is dedicated to my family who is in the market, and this family will be the cream of the crop, and we will be rising to the absolute top. Welcome in. I am the Crypto Bull God. And this is the recorded on Tuesday, airing on Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, Crypto Bull God Podcast. You can find me on Twitter, TradingView, YouTube, and Instagram at Crypto Bull God. And you can also find my brother, Crypto Bringer, on Twitter. We do have a joint podcast that we've been doing now for a few weeks. We actually recorded an episode last Wednesday. It's CryptoBroz. I'll leave a link in the description. You definitely need to check it out. I've been saying that it's a podcast that I do expect a lot of great things from, especially starting next year, once both of us have a little bit more time to spend on crypto. Right now, things are a little bit different, but beginning next year, I know I'm going to have a lot more time. My brother should have some additional time as well. But check out CryptoBroz. We actually just recorded an episode last Wednesday. I still need to edit that and get that uploaded. And I think I'm going to do that tomorrow on Wednesday because we record podcasts on Wednesday. So I figure if it gets released on Wednesday, that makes the most sense. This one I record on Tuesday. So I'm going to try to upload it today. But the CryptoBroz Podcast, we do those things every other week. The Crypto Bull God Podcast, I try to get those once a week. And then the TA videos as needed. So I'm actually up here in, for most of you, it's still down there. But I'm up here in northern Florida right now, visiting the Crypto Bull Goddess. And you probably saw a photo there on Twitter from Saturday. So I jokingly said, but I'm actually serious. You know you're with the right person when they see you buy a crypto t-shirt, in this case, crypto merchandise, and they want to take part in it. So I got her a Harmony t-shirt, and we were both wearing those when we were in downtown Savannah, Georgia. It was my first time going there. We were there on Saturday and Sunday, and if you haven't been there, very, very beautiful city. We visited the historic area of Savannah. Didn't stay there. The hotels were rather expensive. We stayed like 15 minutes outside of historic Savannah. But the area within Savannah was tremendous. And there were a lot of highlights from the trip, but I would say one of the things I'm thinking of right now was the trolley. It was a trolley, I think. It was a trolley tour. And this guy was very enthusiastic. Trying to remember his name. Do you remember his name? The guy? Nelson. So apparently in his spare time, he also does Elvis impersonations as well. But this guy was really enthusiastic. He had a good sense of humor. Really explained everything well. One of the interesting things I found about downtown historic Savannah is that there's a lot of undertones of things surrounding spirits, ghosts, the paranormal activity, which I've always been interested in. I think it's really, really cool. I mean, I've always been into shows that come to mind that actually Crypto Bull Goddess and I were talking about. So Unsolved Mysteries, for anyone who's watched that show, I love that show. The other show that came to mind was The X-Files. Definitely planning on taking a trip back to Savannah. Want to visit the haunted house that they were advertising, as well as some sort of architectural masterpiece home that was pointed out. So one of the interesting things with paranormal activity is apparently the homes, what they do is to ward off evil spirits. They will put so on the outside of the home, it's either the window is in a light tint or the shutters. It's all light blue. Apparently light blue wards off evil spirits. And there was also a home that had shutters that were slightly tilted. And he also explained that the reasoning was way back in the day, the way the buildings were constructed, is that the shutters were slightly tilted because it would confuse evil spirits so they wouldn't enter the home. So that was really quite interesting. The last thing I would mention on the trip real quick was actually on the way back. So one of the things I was excited about, I actually hit on this on the last podcast, that my father, for some for some reason, still at my age, believes that it's a good idea that around Halloween, he's sending me a rather large quantity of Halloween candy, which I can't quite understand. But so save that Halloween candy, and I was excited to give it out to trick-or-treaters. And I'm a little naive. I guess times have changed with the beer virus. And so a couple things. First off, had the candy, excited to give it out to the trick-or-treaters. Got a pumpkin, looking forward to making a jack-o'-lantern, like putting a candle in it, sticking it outside. Like I'm imagining like little kids dressed up in their outfits, and I'm answering the front door, and they say trick or treat, and I get to see all these cool costumes. Yeah, none of that. So apparently, first off, we got home late. Not that late. It was like 7:30. And I guess everyone was finished up trick-or-treating. And then the other thing I was unaware of that the crypto bull goddess mentioned to me, because of these wonderful times that we're in of the pandemic, I guess the thing is to take your candy and leave it out the front door, and you don't even answer the door. For me, that takes all the fun away. Like, the fun is opening the door and seeing the costumes. So if I'm just leaving candy out at my front door with a light on, one, I know some smart ass is going to take like half the candy. There's a high likelihood of that. And two, it takes all the fun out of it. So it was very disappointing. It's just a very disappointing end to the trip. The trip was awesome, but it was a very disappointing end just because I was looking forward to giving out candy. So it just sucks that things have changed in that manner. Because I can remember trick-or-treating, and I loved Halloween. I'd actually be curious for anybody, because I know the age range, looking at YouTube, that you're around the same age range that I am. I'm curious, like, what memories you can share. What memories you can share about going trick-or-treating around Halloween. Drop a comment in the podcast. I'd be really interested to hear that. I like to get away from crypto sometimes and talk about other things. So I'd be really curious to hear what stories you guys have. But speaking of crypto, let's actually get into things here. I wanted to give a quick update on Bitcoin like I always do. So I didn't do any prep ahead of this podcast looking at the chart, simply because I've stared at this chart enough and I'm way too familiar with it. So all that's happening right now, so I'm just looking at a daily view on Bitcoin. There's nothing surprising. There's nothing that's catching me off guard or anything unexpected here. All Bitcoin is simply doing is consolidating. I mean, it's consolidating in the 60,000 price range. And if you've been here for a while, you can historically go back and you can listen to some of my podcast episodes, although I don't know why you'd actually want to do that. But hey, if you wanted to, and you actually just fast forwarded to the section where I was talking about Bitcoin, keeping a perspective on things is really important, because if you go back a couple months ago, or you think back to a couple months ago, what I was talking about was price consolidation, maybe in the 30,000 range or in the 40,000 range. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the mid $60,000 range. Okay, take that in for a second. You really have to zoom out and appreciate where we are within the price history here. I mean, even if I go back, I've been here for a long time. Even if I go back to a period back in 2020, I remember when we were getting up to levels close to 20,000, people thought there was going to be a major price rejection off of 20,000. That's less than 1/3 of the price of where we're at right now. And I remember once we broke 20,000, we went on a skyrocket towards the $40,000 area. So really just appreciate the fact that all that's happening right now for Bitcoin is that it's consolidating in the $60,000 range. And in terms of expectations for this month and moving forward, nothing has changed in terms of what my expectations are for a price range, price wick. Want to drive that point home, that Bitcoin's not going to hit a price level. And when I call a cycle top, that's not Bitcoin hitting that price and staying there for long. That's literally a price wick. And what is a price wick? Well, it's price volatility. It means the price goes up to that level, but doesn't stay there, right? It retracts from that price. So I've said in this cycle, Bitcoin will, have a wick, a cycle top anywhere between 150 and 250. I think it's a pretty wide range intentionally, just because of the volatility associated with this market and this asset. But nothing has changed about that. So my expectations for the current month, given the consolidation, I feel very confident that this is the month that Bitcoin will touch 100,000. Everyone's always talked about 100,000. If it doesn't hit 100,000 this month, it's going to get astronomically close to it. And then I do still feel very confident that Bitcoin, some of the alts, the following month, we're going to have a top in December. So I still am fully anticipating Bitcoin having a top in December. It certainly is possible that it could top earlier this month and have a lower, all-time high before we go into a bear market or cycle top. But my current view is that Bitcoin will top in December, and I've spoken to this time and time and time again. Alts will all top similarly in nature in terms of timing around that time frame. Many of which will top several weeks after that. So hypothetically, Bitcoin tops, December 15th. You will have alts topping within the first to second week of January, right? So that is my current view right now. Nothing at all has changed about it. The price action on Bitcoin looks very healthy. I don't see anything concerning. And like I said, my expectations for November is that Bitcoin's going to hit $100,000. We're very close to it. The other thing to keep in mind with that, I didn't hit on this and I wrote a note about this, is that really also the other thing you're going to start seeing in November, you've seen some of the alts kind of take off. Hey, my call on Twitter, if you're not following me on Twitter at CryptoBroz, one of the best calls I've ever made. I talked about a price fractal on Mana, Decentraland. And I got to tell you, as much as I felt very confident that the price was consolidating in that 70-cent area, I did not anticipate. I saw on Coinbase it hit a wick up to $5. I could not have told you that we were going to hit $5 from 70 cents, but I did see that $2 to $3 level, very reasonable for this month. So we far exceeded that. But anyway, so you've seen a lot of alts fire off like that, right? But what you're going to see, you've seen some of these turns taking place within some of these altcoins. November will really be the start of some of these alts beginning to take off. 2 projects, actually 3 in particular that I've mentioned, I've tweeted about, that I am personally watching, personally invested in, that I am keeping an eye on over the next couple weeks here, this week, next week, the week after. I'm looking at Sushi. I've put out a few charts and spoken to Sushi, and we'll get into Sushi a little bit more later. I've spoken to HBAR, and I've spoken to XLM, Stellar Lumens. Those 3 charts are ones that I'm personally, like I said, invested in, and ones that I am looking for some breakouts to occur in the shorter term here. Now, when I say that alts will begin their runs in November, I'm not talking about true euphoria. True euphoria is what you will witness in December and January. True euphoria is when prices will hit levels that people, they did not see coming. True euphoria is when ignorant retail investors will get into the market and buy the tops and lose the shirts off their back. And you will see money bleed out of Bitcoin into the altcoins. And that's why, one of the things that I've hit on in this podcast many, many times, and I've said up until the point of when I believe we've topped, I will continue hitting on this for your benefit, so that you're maximizing your potential. You really need to keep your emotions in check. I'm actually going to give you 2 recent examples of keeping your emotions in check and making wise investment decisions. So I commented on when HBAR was making its run to 58 cents, I commented that I scaled a small percentage out. I used relativity charts in the other Holy Crypto Trinity assets, One and Mana, to take some of those proceeds from HBAR and shift them into One and Mana. Was it a large amount? No. It was a small amount. But that small decision resulted in me monumentally increasing my H bar position. I don't know if I would say monumentally, but it was a significant increase, right? Same thing with Mana, right? Mana became very overextended when it got up to the $3 to $5 range. I took some of those profits and I put it into Sushi Swap. Sushi Swap, in my opinion, right now is very underpriced, very underappreciated. Has not performed well in the past several weeks, and the chart setup is beautiful. And so those are the sorts of unemotional decisions you need to make. And the largest unemotional decision you need to make, and I continue to hammer home on, and I do this because I can read charts, right? I feel confident that I can make these small decisions, and as a technical analyst, this can benefit my portfolio. Most people can't go to a chart or relativity chart and make those sorts of decisions, but you as an investor, I can tell you what you should be able to do unemotionally, and it's your responsibility, and you need to take ownership for it. And that is, you need to know what your scale out strategy is. I've spoken to this too many times in the past. You need to keep it stupid simple, but you need to have a few different data points, do your homework, and understand certain key price levels that you want to sell at. And when the price gets to those levels, you need to sell, no questions asked. You can't get on Twitter, you can't go on YouTube and listen to somebody's emotional opinion about how some asset's going to do a 1000x in the next week. If you do that, you will lose. I promise you will lose out. Okay. You need to know now, because once the emotions start to flood into the market, rationality goes out the window. Nothing is rational. Prices will reach irrational levels. That's the whole point. When we get euphoric and we hit these blow off tops, prices are irrational. Bitcoin's price will become irrational. All of the crypto asset prices will become irrational. I don't want to hear an argument about any single crypto asset and its fundamental use case and why you could argue it being worth $1 or $2 trillion. You can argue with me about that if you want, but the point is the charts will tell you from a technical perspective if things have become irrational and overextended. So really, I really encourage you and stress to do your own homework and understand how you want to scale out. What's your risk tolerance level? And what data points are you utilizing to tell you to sell out? Hopefully I am a data validation point. Hopefully some of the information that I provide to you find of use and you can use it as a data point. But I or no one else should be your sole person telling you when to buy or sell. I'm simply here doing my unbiased educational research to help you out, but I don't know everything. No one knows everything. And so you should hopefully use me as a data point. Just a simple data point in your own arsenal of knowledge. That sounded pretty sweet. Arsenal of knowledge. So actually, this is a good transition because I brought this up. The chart of the week, and this actually ties into last week. My chart of the week last week was Sushi Mana. The Sushi Mana chart sort of took a shit, to be honest, because Mana went on this epic run. So the relativity value on Sushi is at an epic low. And we actually went lower. Did we go lower? I thought at one point we created a double bottom. Let me see if we created a double bottom. No, we're at all-time lows here. Yeah, when Mana went parabolic, all these relativity charts just went haywire. I have a Mana-matic chart that took a dump, a Mana H-bar chart, a Mana 1 chart. Mana really blew up. But that was my chart of the week, the last podcast. The chart of the week this week is actually just going to be the USD value chart, Sushi. If you can't spell sushi, I feel sorry for you. Ticker symbol SUSHI, just like the food. Okay, Sushi Swap. Now, I'm not an Elliott wave technician. For those paying attention, one of the things that I indicated is, I have two main things on my learning agenda for next year. One is real estate, non-crypto related. The other is crypto related, technical analyst. I do want to become very proficient in reading Elliott waves. Now, I have a basic fundamental understanding of Elliott waves. And to me, it appears that Sushi Swap has only undergone its first wave up. So meaning it's gone through a wave 1 and a wave 2 correction. Wave 1 up, wave 2 correction. It still needs to go through a massive wave 3, a wave 4 correction, and then a wave 5 up. It has two, basically, what I'm saying is it has two large wave movements up to go. And I'm also seeing this triangular consolidation price action taking place right now. The price is sitting at about $12 right now as I'm recording this, $12.30. Okay, the all-time high is at 20. We're going to call it $22.50. Just round it and make it simple. Okay, so $22.50. I'm not good with math, but that was some dry humor. But $12.30 compared to $25 or $22.50. That's roughly. This is literally off the top of my head, so don't hold me to this. I'm going to say we're about 40% from the all-time high. So even just to get to the all-time high, we have a 40% move to go. And actually, it's higher than that. Well, it's 40% of the all-time high. The point is, $12 is very far from $22. Would you not agree? So the $22 high, when it hit it back in mid-March, we are massively under that price at $12. I'm also stating to you we've only made one massive move up, or wave one movement. We still have two large waves to move up. And it's also been consolidating right in this $10 to $11 range, right? So scaling in here, in my opinion, never financial advice, but scaling in here seems like a tremendous opportunity. I also used the Sushi Mana chart. Okay, even though the Sushi Mana chart took a dump, I used the Sushi Mana chart to tell me, okay, Mana is overextended, looking at the USD, looking at some of the relativity charts. I'm scaling out of Mana. Okay, as much as I love Mana, that's part of the Holy Crypto Trinity, again, remaining unemotional. I'm taking some of that Mana and I'm putting it in Sushi because I fully anticipate Sushi's value appreciating at a greater rate over the short to midterm here relative to Mana. Now, let's get into something fun. I did spend a few minutes trying to come up with just a quick high-level observation of where we could go this cycle for Sushi. Again, this is a very volatile market. Let's not try to get too precise here. Let's try to come up with something that's logical, something that doesn't try to get too cute with the numbers, where we try to pretend that we're smarter than we are. Let's just try to exercise some common sense and logic, right? So there are two main things that I use to come up with a potential price range, a cycle top for Sushi. The first thing that I looked at, if you go back to the Holy Crypto Trinity video, I can leave a link in the description. I will try to remember to do that. You will see that I came up with some hypothetical market caps for the top 65 crypto projects, okay? So I came up with some sort of rough estimate of where, when we top, okay, in other words, when we top within the market, or right around when we top, I actually stressed that in the video, I believe. These weren't exact tops, but right around the top, I came up with, I derived a hypothesis in terms of at different crypto market cap rankings, what would the market cap be? For example, rank 20 would be around 90 billion. Rank 30, like 30 to 35, so near the top of the cycle, when you're looking at projects ranked between 30 and 35, it'd be around 34 to 46 billion, okay? So I came up with some estimations for that. So I'm using that and hypothesizing where Sushi will be near the top of this cycle using past data, which I'll speak to. And the other thing I used, which is very common among technical analysts, are Fib extensions, okay? So let's actually talk about the Fib extensions first. So I understand there's two movements to go here. Using Fib extensions once we complete our wave 3 would be a little bit more precise, but for the sake of conversation, what I did is I looked at some Fib extensions. Once we break $22, the question is just how high could we go? Okay, so there's these things called Fibonacci extensions, which enable us to take a educated guess. Okay, nothing's a certainty in anything in life besides living and dying. So these are just educated guesses based on numbers. So I'm taking a look at these Fib extensions, and the most common is the 1.618. That's a sure thing. So once we clear the all-time high, at some point we're going to hit around the 1.618, which I'm looking at. It's basically, I'm going to use round figures here, $48. But let's aim higher because these things tend to drastically overextend. And the other thing, this is actually really important. The other thing to keep in mind right now, Sushi Swap is a much smaller market cap, okay, relative at least to what I'm invested in. It's somewhere ranked in the 80s. I think right now it is ranked, it looks like at rank 82, okay? It is lower, it has a lower market cap ranking than HBAR 1, Mana, than all of those. I mean, it's ranked very low at the moment. And because it has a smaller market capitalization, it has more room to run. It's easier to move the price because there's less liquidity in it, okay? Now, typically, when I've gone back and I've looked at Fib extensions, it's been very common to hit the 4.618 Fib extension. The 4.618 Fib extension is 125. We could certainly overextend beyond the 4.618, especially since we have 2 waves to complete. And I've certainly seen Fib extensions go beyond the 4.618. But let's look at the 125 figure for now. Maybe it overextends, it gets closer to the 5.618, which puts it at 150. So let's keep that 125 to 150 number in mind. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is Sushi Swap from a crypto market cap ranking perspective is rank 82. Now, I looked back. I used coinmarketcap.com for those who are not familiar. And I took a look to see, well, what was Sushi Swap's market cap ranking when it hit its cycle top? Well, when it hit cycle top, it looked like it was right around 40 to 42. It is not uncommon. Please listen carefully. See what just happened to Mana. See what happened to One, and see what happened to HBAR. It happened to all 3 components of the Holy Crypto Trinity. They all moved up significantly in market cap ranking once they went through some runs here, okay? Once this thing goes through a run, given it's a smaller, it has a smaller market cap, it's historically been at a higher market cap, it's not uncommon to see this thing revisit a market cap ranking around where it was at before. Now, where it was at in early March was market cap ranking 40, in the 40s, 40, 42, right? Well, if I go to my little spreadsheet that I shared on the Holy Crypto Trinity video and I look at my hypothetical market cap ranking, we're at around 40, it puts it at 29 billion, okay? 29 billion. I also saw Sushi Swap consolidated within that 50 to 55 market cap ranking around that same period too, once it cooled off. So let's just say it hits anywhere between a market cap ranking at its highest, okay? It jumps from 82 all the way up to somewhere between 40 to 55, okay? Market cap ranking 40 to 55. That puts it anywhere, based on what I've drawn out here, between a 29 to $18 billion market cap. Or stated differently, $18 to $29 billion market cap. And if you calculate the price, okay, you're going to have to trust my math. Hopefully you can as an actuary. If you do the math, the rough math is it puts it between 140 and 227. Okay, 140 and 227. 140 if it reached market cap ranking 55, 227 if it reached market cap ranking 40. So then what I do as a reasonability check is I ask myself the question, do those numbers make any sense based on the Fib extensions that I shared with you earlier? I go back, I take a look at these Fib extensions. Well, again, 4.618 puts us at 125. 5.618 puts us at 150. Once you start going beyond that, it's possible to go up to the 9.618 or 8.618 or 7.618 up in the 200 range, but it's less probable, right? So to me, that serves as a further validation point that if Sushi can get right in that 40 to, maybe just even 50, the top 50 market cap ranking and get around, we're going to call it $20 billion, right at that top 50, right? Top 50 at the $20 billion level, that puts it around 150. And the reason I say that is because, and the reason I feel comfortable giving a target of around 150, something well north of $100. Around 150, you start getting up into 200, that feels a little high. The 50 to 55 market cap ranking puts it between 140 and 164. The 5.618 trend-based Fib extension here is at 150. So the 150 kind of ties into that 140 to 160, right? So I'm looking at this rough estimate and saying, all right, well, I think $150 for Sushi Swap is very reasonable. By the way, $150 for Sushi Swap just to give you a number, that from current price levels is a 13x. So whatever you have invested in Sushi Swap, if it hypothetically hit that number, it's around a 13x. It's a little less than 13, but it's around a 13x. Might be closer to a 12x, 12 to 13x, right? So again, Sushi Swap, based on my quick analysis here, I think 150 certainly seems very possible. If I had to give a target range, I would say somewhere between 140 and 220. 220 is the upper end of that market cap 40 ranking. 220 also, by the way, on a trend-based Fib extension, it puts it up more towards the 8.618 Fib extension. So something between 140 and 220. I think that's very possible. So chart of the week, once again, is Sushi on the USD. And what we're going to do now is we're going to get into some Twitter questions. All right, question number 1, DT Duncan. What's your estimate on where H-bar's dominance will top at the peak of this run? My friend, you asked this last podcast. And I said, did you forget? I said to keep it stupid simple, I never look at the dominance chart for H-bar. I don't think it adds any value to my own analysis, so I can't really tell you. I focused on the charts I've shared. I focused on the H-bar USD chart, the H-bar Matic chart, H-bar Bitcoin chart, H-bar 1 chart. Really, it's the one H-bar chart. Those are the charts I focus on, so I don't know. I personally wouldn't concern yourself with H-bar dominance. I have no idea what its dominance will be. Where would you... okay, so this is a really good question. So Yanchi is asking me... Here, you'll know when I'm recording the podcast because I'm going to like this as I'm doing this. Where would you take profits for Sushi in the short term? Well, I'll tell you what. There is a portion of my Sushi investment that is specifically from Mana. So what I'm planning on doing is I personally am planning on reading that Sushi Mana relativity chart. And when we start to come up to certain key levels, let me actually tell you what they are because I have them. Let me be transparent with you. I have a golden pocket for Sushi Mana relativity value between 14 and 26. So once we start to get up into that 14 to 26 zone, the relativity value on the Sushi Mana chart, that's when I'm going to be scaling out that Sushi investment and putting it back into Mana to increase my Mana position. The rest of the Sushi that I want to own, I'm not selling a single drop of it until we start to get to that euphoric part of the cycle when this thing's topping in, say, January. I'm not, for the price range I just told you about, I mean, based on my rough estimate, and I might go back and just further refine it, somewhere between 140 and if I'm saying between 140 and 220, anything close to those levels is when I'd start to take some profit and scale out based on my own risk tolerance level. And obviously, if we got into that range, I'd be scaling a lot more. So that's what I will be doing. What indicators do you use to know when the top is getting close for an alt? This is awesome. Great question, Darren. So for an alt, what I personally use, one thing that I like to use are relativity charts. So whether I'm using a Bitcoin relativity chart or one alt in relation to another alt, I will use that. Another thing that I will use to know that an alt is getting close to its top is when things start getting very euphoric after Bitcoin has topped. So once I feel comfortable, so using some data science models and using some price charts, once I feel Bitcoin has topped, right, it has hit its euphoric top, I know that once the alts that I own start really going parabolic, it's time to really consider selling your investment at certain key levels. So I will use the USD chart, I will use relativity charts, and I will also use hypothetical market caps that I could see some of these alts hitting. And I literally, what I do is I just scale out and I shouldn't say the present tense because I haven't. In the future, what I will do is I will scale out in increments, 10% increments, 20% increments. And based on, to be very transparent with you, based on my own risk tolerance level, I will be very conservative to some, not very conservative, but conservative with initial scale out approaches, because I want to know, I don't want to be greedy. I want to know that I'm going to lock in some profit. So I'll give you an example. If I feel really confident that H bar is going to hit $3 to $5, I personally am planning to scale some out before it even hits $3, because I want to know. I could be wrong. Okay, I want to know that I'm going to realize a lot of the profits when I bought H bar at 7 cents. Okay, so 7 cents to $2.85 is a pretty damn good profit, right? So I don't want to get greedy. I want to sell some at that point, but those are all the things that I consider. I hope that was helpful. Okay, Timbo, this is a great question. So I've read something about superstar Billy Graham, but I don't know enough about it. You're actually dating me a little bit, but I have heard that Hogan ripped him off, so that is quite possible. I may have to do some research there and get back to you. Appreciate the wrestling question, though. You can tell I'm enthusiastic about the old school WWF. What's the deal with ETH? Can it pump before alt season? I'm kind of shocked it's not at 5,500 by now. I know it's coming, just a little surprised. Yeah, you're asking a good question. Okay, so a lot of people would consider Ethereum not even an altcoin at this point, given its market cap size, and given the fact that I kind of touched on this earlier, that there is a possibility that for a very brief moment in time, we could technically see the flippening. The flippening, though, would be so quick. It'll be part of a day that it's not even worth mentioning. It's not anything that's going to be permanent at this point. But don't forget. So I'm kind of shocked it's not at 5,500 by now. Can I tell you another asset I'm shocked that isn't at a certain price level by now? I'm shocked that H bar is not above $1 by now. Okay, being transparent, I thought at this point H bar would have hit a price above $1. Right? That doesn't mean that when things start going extremely euphoric, the prices are just not going to make any sense, and you're going to see percentage gains that are just unfathomable to somebody who hasn't been in this space for a while. Go back in history and look at the runs that occurred in 2017. So I wouldn't say it shocks me that Ethereum isn't at 5,500 by now. What would shock me is that if it doesn't go well above that, if it doesn't go to the 13, 15, 17, 18, 19,000 as a blow off euphoric top, yes, that would surprise me. But just don't lose track of the fact that the euphoria that comes into the market really accelerates the price appreciation. So even though Ethereum hasn't hit the price that you've spoken to or tweeted about, and even though H bar hasn't hit $1, it doesn't mean once things don't start going euphoric, Ethereum's not going to blow past 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, $13,000 within a matter of a couple days. Okay, just going back on history to see that sort of thing taking place. That's what we have seen in the past. So I'm not sure if this is really a question, but someone, Rolboyo, he tweeted a few things here. Thank you for the comments. I don't really see any real questions in here for me to answer, but it has to do with the bear market, the impending bear market, what we see for that. Let's actually revisit that at another time. Let's enjoy the euphoria. To be short and sweet, though, to at least give you something that I've spoken to in the past, I use past data and history to tell me what's most likely moving forward. I have no reason to believe until proven otherwise that we're not going to go through a massive correction in the entire space. No cryptocurrency spared, okay? I don't care what you're tied to. Where Bitcoin doesn't suffer an 80-85% correction, altcoins suffer a 90, 95, 99% correction. I just don't see anything different until proven otherwise. Yeah, same thing from Rich T. Thank you for the question, but I think I kind of answered in the last response. Once the market corrects, everything will be corrected. It's not like anything's going to be spared. I really hope you don't go into the next bear market thinking that, because it's not going to happen. But yeah, so I'd rather focus on, enjoying the time period we're in right now and focusing on how we can maximize our investment potential versus talking about a bear market. Let's after the euphoric top, we can talk about it. Okay. So this is a really good question. You've tweeted at me a few times. Thank you for the question. I don't know how to pronounce actually your name. So Rub Hagwat. Sorry for mispronouncing, but I do appreciate the interaction. I know you've tweeted at me a few times. So you raise a very good question based on the supply of H bar increasing and how that might impact my cycle top, right? Or market cap projections. Now, anytime you obviously intuitively increase the supply of something, it's going to decrease the price, right? That's just basic laws of economics. There's nothing really to overthink there. I didn't factor it in. I have not factored in an increasing supply, and I think just to keep things stupid simple, I did not. For myself, I have chosen to simplify my projections and not account for any increasing supply. So I'd rather not go back and try to fiddle with my projections and say, well, this may be 10% overvalued based on the circulating supply or 5% overvalued. You have to understand, my friend, there's so much margin for error in projecting these things, and how I'm deriving my projections on prices will be different than the next person, and there's so much volatility and immaturity within this space. I think it's good to try to not to get too cute and too precise with your projections. You raise a very good point. Don't get me wrong. I'm not shooting down what you're saying. You're raising a very good point, but I think what I came up with was quote unquote precise enough. And there's enough margin for error in there that I don't think accounting for any increase in circulating supply is really going to matter to come up with the price projections that I did. Great question here. I think this is the last when moon. That's funny. So last question here. So is the market playing out as you expected? I would say overall in general, it is playing out as I expected. Were there some surprises, twists, and turns that I didn't see coming? Yeah, certainly. It's called volatility. It's called being in a very immature space where assets can go up tremendously up and down further than you thought. Let me give you a couple quick examples. Most recent, Mana went up higher than I thought it would. I mean, it price wicked up to $5. Who saw that coming? No one. Bitcoin. Made sense given the negative divergence in the RSI back in May or April, whatever that was, May. They were going to get a correction. Did I think we'd suffer? I think it was 55%. Did I think we'd suffer a 55% correction and go all the way down to 28,600 or wick down there? Basically, bottom at 30,000? No. I think if you go back to an earlier video, I talked about the mid to upper 30,000. So it went a little lower than I was anticipating. H-bar, I talked about H-bar. I thought H-bar would have hit $1 by now. So it's underperformed my expectations to this point in time. So there are certain assets that have done things that I didn't specifically think would happen. I'm not, Nostradamus. But I would say in general, when you holistically take a step back and look at the entire market, yeah, I would say things are kind of going according to plan. There isn't anything that's really deviated from my expectations in terms of where I see things going. And I recognize and understand from studying past trends in the data, or past, I wouldn't even say past trends in the data, but I would say studying the peak period of when things get euphoric. It's really these last couple months or several weeks where things just start to go insanely high. So what you saw in Mana from 70 cents to $5, you're going to be seeing all over the place. So yeah, I would say in general, things have definitely played out relatively within the same manner as I expected. So that's all I had. In closing, please join me in a moment of silence for all of those I attempted on multiple occasions to get into crypto and have remained ignorant. Thank you.